morning, everybody. Welcome to November, September. Wow, I almost said November. September
Well,
15th.
we'll be there. We'll be there soon, I'm sure.
It's moving pretty quick. That is for sure. Hope everybody had a good weekend.
Of course.
Yeah, a
Of
lot of good
course.
football,
You had a
a lot of good
weekend.
base.
That was the genius of it all.
Yeah, I don't know.
All right.
A lot of my friends are retired, so every day's a weekend for them. So
So when does it become not a weekend when you're retired?
I think it's when you don't know what day it is. And remember when you work a lot, and if you work in the company or something, you always knew when the 3 day weekends were coming or the holidays. I think it's when you're
Yeah.
retired, you're like, oh, it's Memorial Day. I didn't even know. You know, I think that's
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. Yeah. True.
So, all right. Well,
True.
let's get some rocking and rolling here. Send my request.
There you go.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Okay. Um, Last week, I'm just for the week. The market S&P was up 1.6% for the week. The Nasdaq was up 2% for the week, and the Dow Jones up 1%. So, we've seen that ride continually go up. We had CPI, PPI data. We had some jobless reports, all indicating that uh, we might see a rate cut this week, and that's going to be what we focus on Wednesday, the FOMC meeting and press conference. Um, Wednesday, a rate cut is expected. Uh, the question is by how much. Right now, the experts are saying a quarter point is baked into the market right now. Um, but right now, I think we'll be in a wait and see kind of mode, uh, until Wednesday to see what happens. And if you get a 50 basis point cut, what will that do? Well, historically, probably the market's gonna rise up. If we don't get a rate cut and you've got a quarter point baked in, then the market will probably go down. Okay. Uh, so I mean, at its presser, that's really what you see. The meeting minutes come out and everyone's like, they see the market bounce, and then Powell comes out, and more than not, you've seen in the past, he's come in and he's dampened it down. We'll see. Uh, if he has a dovish tone, and you talk about a rate cut and he hints at more rate cuts coming, that could fuel a rally. But if he was cautious or hawkish, that could lead to a market reversal. So I mean, that's the situation we're in. We still have trades out there that we can trade. I'd just be careful again this week. And once we get past this rate cut, we've been on this trying to find this rate cut for God, seems like 2 years now, but it's not. I mean, we had a rate cut of 50 basis points a year ago, September. Oh, a year ago right now. Right before the election, um, Powell knows he's not going to be the Fed chair anymore. Can he be political? He could. I don't know. He shouldn't, but we'll see what happens. Um, but that's what we got to do. But we'll move on. And as you can see, stock futures are up a little bit today. Tesla's really up because Elon bought $1 billion of his stock. So those of you in Tesla are going to see a pretty sizable boost. It looks like, at least in the preliminary. So let's move on. Again, every week I put out on the Platinum channel, and again we'll be moving this to one whole channel as we move into October. Under charts of interest, I put out two kind of lists, and they're just it's a list for your watch list, not buy list. The under the 200-day list, because we have a lot of stocks under the 200. And you can make some money on under the 200. You just got to play it more carefully. And so you can go into charts of interest. Here it is. You can see the stocks of interest. And then we also have uh, uh, the regular watch list for swing trading. And you can see if we have them on different stocks. Again, you can go in and I put the charts in as they are on Sunday. So always look at them on Monday morning to make sure they didn't change, because sometimes different charting softwares will change different indicators depending on what you use. So just be careful on that. Let's go take a look at some stuff today. Charts. Add this up. Mondays are always busy. We look at the Dow Jones, right up last Friday and last Thursday. We're right between the 9, and we're right here at the intermediate resistance level. We're going to open up, about where we above where we closed. You see, we closed down a little bit on Friday. Again, oscillators are kind of flat. But the Dow's done good. 30 stocks, older stocks, more established stocks. But it's been in the upward trend. But we're hitting resistance again, and I expect to see that probably until Wednesday. SPY. Same thing. Here's resistance. Here's where we're going to open just a little bit higher. Here's where sell orders are, again above the 9. You got kind of updish to flattish oscillators on the SPY, but basically from the bottom left to the top right, we're slowly moving up, hitting new highs as we wait for the interest rate decision. And of course, the tech heavy Qs going to open up a little bit right above the upper Bollinger Band. We've been using that as a pretty nice level of resistance. And again, we have some sell orders right above that. The oscillators still look good. But again, you want to get in before. You know what's going to happen Wednesday, so it's just a matter of what do you think is going to happen, and are you going to risk the ups or the downs? And that's really up to you as a trader and your trading plan. Gold been doing pretty well, but again, we talked about resistance 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 days heading sideways. We'll see what happens. This is kind of waiting, I think, too, for interest rates. We kind of a flight to safety to value in gold. Silver has been kind of on a nice run, and no resistance other than we have some sell orders up here at 38.75. Looks like we're going to open right about in the area that we closed, maybe a little bit down, but the oscillators look good. And silver doesn't have a resistance level, which I don't like, because it's like I don't know where it's going to appear. But right now, we had this run up sideways over, like we see, hit support and then popped up again. So if you're going to try out silver, might try to get it at a better price, closer to support if you can, and see if you can ride it up. But once you're in, put your stops in and know when you're going to get out in case this thing turns quick. Bitcoin. Bitcoin's right up at that 115 level. We're at 114.9 basically. So again, we're just holding right there on that. What was resistance is now support. We're above the 50, which is a good level of support, and we have this 9 rolling up. It's going to cross over the 50, and the oscillators are still in the positive area. We've got an upward going Bollinger Band too. So right now we're looking at, it's finding support at the 9. It's finding resistance at the upper Bollinger Band. And now we're finding support not only at 115, but here's your 50 and your 9. So 2 levels of blockers pushing you, trying to keep you from going down. But again, we'll know more on Wednesday, I'm sure. Okay, that didn't work out. Ethereum. Let's get back into mode here. Ethereum, we had kind of a bump up to the upper Bollinger Band, which is sideways moving. So again, it didn't really affect it. It came back down right in above the 9. Still have, upward trending 200. We're above the 200, upward trending 50. Got the stochastic has crossed over negatively, which usually is an indication. You might see that on the MACD also. But we're still above the 9. So we got above it, finally rolled up, and we didn't breach that level of support yet, but still looks sideways to me just on the Bollinger Bands. We'll see where that goes. IBIT, of course, is the ETF for Bitcoin, and we got above the 9, got above the 20 we looked at last week, then jumped up to the 50, except we're going to hit resistance right here at the Bollinger. So we'll see if that continues on or it gets stopped out like we did back kind of in this area here. And then we have for the Ethereum, the Fidelity Ethereum, we've hit this line of resistance several times, and that's where we are again on the Ethereum ETF. MicroStrategy. MicroStrategy is interesting from a chart point of view because we've had this pattern where we dumped, got to the intermediate support level, sideways, 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 kind of kept around that area. Now the 9s come down, and we're starting to breach over the 9 a little bit. We just need to get a nice full candle close above and get this 9 rolling back up, and that could turn into a pretty good swing trade. But again, I want confirmation on that, get above that 9. Down here, we're seeing a little bit of a positive MACD, okay, and a little bit of a positive slow stochastic, but we're still at the 40. So we need a little more momentum, to get off this launch pad of the intermediate support level and move up. So keep that on your list, for you're under the 200 list. Okay, NVIDIA, last I looked, is going to open down a little bit. We got resistance again right here. We're going to open right above the 50. A little bit of a cross trine on the MACD. Have a positive stochastic, but again, sideways. We've been this way kind of for a while. Again, we've been waiting for news on inflation, waiting for news on jobs report. Now we're waiting for news on interest rates, but we'll see. Meta. Where's Meta? There we go. Same kind of thing, right along resistance, right between the 9, and we're going to open up just a little bit above. But again, we've hit resistance. You've got Bollingers who are collapsing on us a little bit. Got a stochastic that's negative crossover. So I would kind of wait and see what happens. Got a lot of lines of resistance up here. If you're in it already, you're above the 200. Okay, so from an investment point of view, and with Paul Tudor Jones, you're doing okay on that one. Microsoft, again, above the 200, but sideways. Okay, we're just in this wait and see kind of pattern, and hopefully we see it break. Seeing a little bit of positivity on the stochastic down here, and that'll tend to help out down here at the on the MACD. But until we, if you look at this, we've been right along the 50, and we still can't get past that 50. We kind of bump up right above the 50's resistance, and right above that is the sell orders. Look how narrow these Bollinger Bands are. So, looking at it from a technical point of view right now, we're coiled up. Which way are we going to go? We don't know. So I just wait and see which direction the trend's going to take us, and then the trend becomes your friend until it's not. Google, these are really kind of boring charts. Google had a nice bump up. Here's where that court order was on Google, that they didn't have to break up. And then we moved up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 outside the Bollinger Band and inside and right along resistance. Okay. The 9's coming up. We'll see if this continues sideways. The 9 pulls up and does one of these things, or if we get to Wednesday and the market considers whatever comes out of the Fed good news, and we see these things skyrocket out or dump down. Apple. Apple had kind of that bounce, and they had their product show last week and kind of came back, but we're right under the 9 and right at resistance again. And the oscillators don't look so good on Apple. So again, we are above the 200. We'll probably have a little golden cross of the 50 over the 200. But again, Apple, just like the rest of the mags, we're just kind of sitting here and waiting, except for Tesla. But I'll go to Amazon first and say Tesla for last. Right back on resistance. Amazon popped up 1, 2, 3 down. The trend is down. You're seeing the oscillators go down on Amazon. And then Tesla, Elon bought $1 billion worth, it said. So you don't think someone didn't know, maybe? That
maybe had an idea.
I mean, seriously. I mean, you think about, because here's where we're going to open, right here. What was that, right?
Well,
425.
Isn't that something he has to submit to the SEC before, since he's a bigger than 10% owner of the company?
Yeah, but if you tell one person, it's no longer a secret, So I'm sure he's got to submit it through somebody, and that somebody looks at it and has to enter it into the system. And that somebody might be saying, hey, at a cocktail party 3 weeks ago, hey, I just saw some interesting stuff come by, after about 7 wines and 3 margaritas. I mean, that's the way it works. But tell me about it. I mean, look at this. Okay. These are daily charts, day. And now we're going to be here. I mean, tell me that we're not a little bit corrupted in our system. I mean, definitely. I mean, but if you're in it, like Scott likes Tesla, I know he's been buying in. This is going to be a good day for him, for sure. Anyway,
Wow.
Palantir. Okay, Palantir again. We're going to open up a little bit below where we were. Got the Bollinger Bands converging, which means we're just, this looks a lot like the other stock right along the 50. Okay, we've tried to make a run up. Up actually got this one on the watch list this week because we're seeing some nice movements on the oscillators. You got some room if you get past this Bollinger. If I was going to get into this, I'd wait and try to get a better price maybe at this level in here, see if you can catch a bounce. But your resistance is way up at this point here. Sell orders are below, so be careful of that. But potential swing on Palantir. All right, let's go to the watch list. Berkshire. This we still have on the investment watch list. We got in back here at the 200 at both the swing trade. We went up, came back down, got out here on the swing trade, came back down, bounced off the 200, bounced off the 200. Right now we're trying to get past the 9 again, which is coming down. The oscillators don't look good, but for us, for an investment, we're still in it. We're still up. About 1.5% right now where we are. So again, we didn't on this. It's not a trade; it's investment. So you don't get too gun shy on this and get out until you get below the 200. I mean, you could always get out if you want before your cost basis. It's really totally up to you, and save your money. But again, on an investment, it's more long term. You kind of think a little different. Might wait. You might take a small loss on this and hope it rolls back up, but right now, we're okay on that one. A couple others we were looking at. We looked at Palantir already. J.P. Morgan. This had a nice run. It got above the 9. A couple days above it. You're above the 200. You got oscillators that look pretty good. You don't have a resistance level up here, but you've been playing right along the upper Bollinger Band. So if you were thinking about getting in on a swing trade, I'd wait, try to get a better price down here. And then as it keeps bouncing off the Bollinger Band, showing that we've got momentum for this to continue up all the way up to when you see sell orders at 311.40. So JP Morgan, PFG, another financial stock. Again, it's along the upper Bollinger Band. If I were to get into this, I'd wait for it to come back down and hit, I look at these levels here, maybe put in a buy limit down here if you like this. The markets are up a bit today, probably today and tomorrow. And you have oscillators that look pretty good. And your next level of sells is at 84.37. So that's why it's on the list. It's on a watch list, not a really buy list. Another one, kind of financial, Wisdom Tree. It's a $14 stock, but again, it doesn't have really an upper resistance level, but we're following up the upper Bollinger Band. I would want to get in below the Bollinger Band, not that we can't do 3 more days above it, but you have some sell orders at 14.62, but the oscillators have ticked up a little bit on Wisdom Tree, so put it on your watch list. PCAR. Yep, where'd he go? This one got above the 200. Okay, we fought it a little bit, got above, came back and back tested it. So that's usually a good sign on these, and the oscillators look good. So again, we're right on the upper Bollinger Band. You have a lot of volatility here, so you have an ability to try to get this at a lower price and see if you can get it to ride up. But the momentum and everything, at least looking backwards, looks good as long as we stay over the 200. This has a way to potentially run up. Also, CrowdStrike. Again, we look at it. We came down. We tested the 200, got above the 9, went sideways, and then got above the 20. And now we're at the upper Bollinger Band. Trying to get up, keeps getting beat back, but we're still seeing this trend up. Try to get a better price in here, and then watch the 50. That'll be your level of resistance, but the oscillators all look up and to the right on CrowdStrike. Again, these are probabilities, not guarantees. So you got to follow your trading plan, follow your risk management plan. VSCO, it's another one right on the 200. Victoria's Secret. Again, you think about it, and like Victoria's Secret, but I mean, Victoria's Secret can run if it wants to, but we've had this long run down. We've come back, we've seen it run up, swing trade there, run up, and now we're hitting right at the 200 again. We haven't done that, since we crossed back over in February. Okay, so if we can get up above the 200, that's a pretty good sign for Victoria's Secret. Again, we bounced off of it. So now you got a kind of a narrow range of support at the 200. You got some sell orders right up here at the upper Bollinger Band, which is about 27.45. So, this one you might want to watch, but if you can get it, above and keep going, following up the Bollinger Band, you got some room to go, on Victoria's Secret. But again, we've seen this at Berkshire. We kind of got faked out on Berkshire and it dropped back down, but I do like the 9, the 20, 50, all moving up and to the right, and we got oscillators that look good. So, you follow what your trading plan says and you say, okay, then you got to make the decision, where do I get in? Where do I put my stops? And where do I want to get out? Some other ones I didn't put on the list that you may want to look at. West Pharmaceuticals, same thing, kind of got over the 200, retested it right on the 200 on West Pharmaceuticals. And then another one was QS right here, above the 200. This one got above the, it thought that the 50 for a while got above that, and it's above the Bollinger Bands. Got some good movement on the oscillators. But again, you got to watch here because this is where sell orders are. We've been there before at about 1068. But the volume's good. But again, this is one I didn't put on the list, but it's something if I'm just bringing it up in case you have a more risky trading plan than I do. Under the 200, this one we've had on for 2 weeks. This was on Kerry's tell sheet, and you can see we've kind of formed a sideways pennant here. And at one point, we're going to break one way or the other, but we've been hitting this 50 right here. We get past that 50, hitting the 50, and on support is the 9, and those two are converging. And at some point, we're going to go one way or the other. I just don't know which way, but it's going to pop. And then, we're in this one, a pretty good point of cost basis, and you may want to set some sell limits or trailing stops in here to keep your profits. But we've been in this for about 2 weeks. A couple others, UNH, finally, look at UNH. I'd want to get it back inside the Bollinger Band if I could, but things are looking more positive for UNH. I hear now the president of UNH is going to meet with Trump this week and talk about lawsuits and regulations and stuff. So that could have an effect on it that the chart doesn't know. OGN, Organian, under the 200. It's got a nice trend up, inside the Bollinger Band. You got nice oscillators here. Some sell orders right here at 1113, so be aware of that. But nice trend on that one under the 200. Otis, we've had this one on just recently too. Otis, same kind of thing. Looks like the last chart. You got to watch the 50. That's a pretty good level of resistance, but a little bit of movement. Got the nice oscillators. We're above the 9. We're above the 20 now. 20 is right on support level. So Otis under the 200. FMC right above the 9. I want to see this 9 get a little bit better, as far as moving in the right direction, but it will as long as price action goes up. But we did close above the 20, above the support level. You have some sell orders at 39.38, but possible turn on this one. You might want to watch it for a day or two if you're more risk adverse. EQR, I believe this is a REIT. Yep. You might see some of these pop if we get interest rate cuts because, it's real estate. We've popped up, kind of gone sideways. Got some sell orders right at the upper Bollinger Band. So, you got to look at what's your reward on the upside and what's your risk on the downside, the potential for moving past that. And then a few others, SBAC, these weren't on the list, but just for your, we're seeing that pattern. We finally got down. We're above support. We're above the 9, kind of moving up. I want some more confirmation on this MACD, to make sure we're rolling up. But, these are the kind of patterns you look for. Doesn't mean you necessarily have to get in at this level, but if it keeps going, then your trend is reversed. And that's what you're looking for in a swing trade. And then AI. This is another one that kind of looks the same. It's kind of come down, had support here, intermediate support, hit. The 9 came down, got above it again, but you have, the 20 and the sell order line is right at around 1741. So just watch this one. It has potential if AI, this company can catch a little more momentum that it could roll up. You got some room on the upside, but again, where you enter is really important. Some other ones out there that don't have resistance on the top. Got Citigroup's kind of rolling. Watch out above for the sell orders. FMNA. Okay, this is, that's the wrong one. FMNA. Yep, it's not giving me that. There it is. Sorry. This one's been on a nice roll. This again, Federal National Mortgage Association. So again, this is probably with interest rates. It's running above, right along the Bollinger, but it doesn't have any resistance on top. So strictly momentum, and you got to watch out. As I'm watching these, watch the oscillators if they're rolling or starting to go negative. That kind of gives you an indication that maybe momentum's slowing down, but it's had a nice run. CHRW. Again, this one's kind of been rolling up. We got below the 9 and rolling, but the sell orders, but no real resistance to chalk off of. Iran. This is a popular one. It's been running up. Okay. No resistance other than a sell order, but again, the trend's your friend until it stops. If you trade momentum, these are good momentum stocks to trade. MU, Micron. Micron, I don't think I would get in at this point. 1, 2, 3, 4. I mean, that's for a swing trade, you're managing your risk and your reward. If you can watch it, you might be able to day trade it a little better than swing trade it. And then KLA. Again, another kind of momentum stock. Of course, App 11, one of our favorites. App 11, what I like about this is come back inside the Bollinger Bands. It's using that as a lid, but it's still heading up on App 11. So that's a good sign with trends. Silver, we looked at silver. WPC, WP Kerry, it's got a nice run. No resistance level up here. You got some sell orders, but what I like about these is it's 9 to the upper Bollinger, and try to get a better price. Watch these more tightly because once it hits resistance, a lot of times they just stop you out, and then you're screwed on that as far as a trade. But you can make some money on them. And then WBD. This one I think they're either going to buy Paramount or something like that. Some news came out, so this is really a news kind of deal. Nothing I'd be chasing myself, but I know a lot of you like to chase momentum, so I just brought it up. A couple other things before I turn it over to my colleague Trent. SFM, we've been watching this. It's kind of been a favorite. Sprouts Farmers Market. We've come down. We've hit support, which is what we like. Now we're just waiting to get past that 9. We keep hitting the 9 as resistance, but the 9's coming down and squeezing. Trade that in support. We've seen that before. It comes down and does this, so that's what we're waiting for. I'm not quite there yet. And then let's look at what we looked at last week. CRWV, CoreWeave. So CoreWeave came up, and did a nice bounce, and this was with NBIS. You remember that? And now it's kind of having trouble getting past this 50, and we're seeing a little bit of a turn of the oscillator on the stochastic. And then we'll look at NBIS. This had a big run up, but right into resistance. So we've been at 4 days. It's come back inside the Bollinger Band. You could see maybe a wick up sometimes to where sell orders are, but again, we're sideways on this one with resistance. So, if you had a nice run on it, you may want to take a little bit off. You let some ride, maybe play with house money instead, and that's part of your risk management plan. And a couple others. I'm just going to go with Bitcoin. We talked about last week. Some of these Bitcoin treasury companies have that same pattern, and similar scientific, has come back, hit support, got above the 9, saw a little blip on the upsword blip on the MACD. CRCL, Circle, talked about that. Circle's come back, but it came back up and hit resistance. So for me, I wouldn't get into this one just because it's hit this resistance line until something happens to get it past it. BTM. This one's kind of got that same pattern. This is a Bitcoin Depot. Still got sideways Bollinger Bands, but we can get this to move up. You got a little bit of room to roll on BTM. Again, these are all Bitcoin. KULR. It's another Bitcoin treasury company. Get this right. You can see it's come back over the 9 a little bit. You have some issues. We had sell orders right above, but we're starting to see some of these patterns turn a little bit on these. And I think that's what I got, Trent. I'm going to turn it over to you. You guys want to look at any charts, put them in the chat. We'll get to them after Trent.
All right. So last week, we ended the week on a pretty low volume, or not low volume, low volatility level. We had options market had priced in the S&P 500 range around 6,500 to 6,600. Friday, it got as high as 6,600.21 and then retreated and closed out at 6,584. So this is another proof of how powerful the options market has become. It's telling us that the ceiling for SPX, S&P 500, is 6,600 still today, and the bottom end, the support range, is 6,500. Now, where this gets ugly is if the S&P 500 crosses 64.91. Is that right? Right there. No, 64.69. Friday, that flip line was 64.45. So that is now starting to inch up. And what that is telling us is that that where the turn of SPX, in this case the S&P 500, is starting to move higher or within the range of the high and the low projections at this point. And that tells me that there could be more probability that depending on what happens on Wednesday, we could see this be a buy on the rumor, sell on the news event, and could easily flip this and flip this market down and push the S&P down towards that 6,500 range, if not towards, in my particular thinking, 6,300, 6,328, which is where the intermediate trend line is at this point. But it's interesting how the trade trend line here, the 15 period moving average, in this case 15-day, is right up against where the option market is pricing it, which tells me the option market and other markets in general, traders use a 15 period moving average to front run the 20 period moving average. So that's interesting to me. Right now, systematic funds, these are funds like insurance companies, hedge funds, big institutions who run quantitative models, all based on mathematics, not fundamentals, not on headlines typically, but on mathematics and volatility. They are presently 78% allocated to equities versus, compared to 100%. Where this gets interesting is historically, if I go back here to November, right there, March 18th of 2020, they were roughly 26% allocated to equities. Okay, so if you saw my video on Saturday, sort of a goofy video, but the comparison to the waves in the Gulf of America, when they're most darkest, as my wife put it, that's the opportunity. When they're most light, or the water is crashing and it's sort of a white kind of look to the wave, that's the peak. The high was 96% allocated back on November 9th of 2020. So we went from a very deep low where these funds are not allocated to a fully allocated, and that fully allocated drifted up towards where we then turned back in January of 22. So how do you interpret this where we are today? And that is, we are 78% allocated at this point in a systematic fund allocation. Okay. They don't care about fundamentals. They don't even know the names of the companies. They're basing their algorithms of volatility, the volume, and the price movement. Okay. So three things there. So right now, what this is telling me historically is we could see a pullback based on news this month, because 55% of the time the S&P 500 since 1928 is down an average of 1.47%, if I remember correctly. So we should anticipate some level of pullback in the S&P, but chances are we'll hit a support level right around that 15 period moving average, unless Powell just does nothing or raises rates. That would really blow things up. um, we chances are we'll enter the fourth quarter of this year and we'll start to see a push higher into the end of the year. So if you're thinking as a fund manager for a large hedge fund, you have 78% allocation of your assets allocated to stocks and equities. You're starting to diversify out because, for instance, NVIDIA's gamma level is a negative gamma. So there's more pressure on NVIDIA to go down and readjust its price, and probably around 165, $160 would be a support level. But now they've got 78% allocated. They still have 22% of their capital to deploy to get to full allocation, historical allocations in the last 6 years of 96%. So you get into the fourth quarter, your bonuses are riding on your performance basically in the next 3 months. What do? You reallocate to good, well-valued companies, undervalued companies, and you start pushing this market higher. And so as we get into the fourth quarter, I anticipate we're going to see this systematic fund allocation go from 78% upwards into the mid 80%, if not close to 90% allocation. And that will push the market higher. And based on projections of Wall Street, we could see the S&P get to 7,000. Now, where does this all get ugly? We go into next year. There's some credit issues that are showing up. Tricolor, which is a subprime car lending company, filed bankruptcy, Chapter 11 last week. That affected a handful of the big boys. I believe BlackRock was one of them, a couple of the other major money managers who allocate money. So that to me, as we get into next year, into the first quarter, credit quality, credit event will be the ugly, you know, the ugly moment in the room. So, but between now and then, what the options market is telling me is one, we're up against resistance. We should anticipate a pullback this week, typically based on some sort of volatility movement. Volatility today still is suppressed, down around 1493 as of this morning pre-market. But as you can see, we've been in this range below 19 since May 2012, which has been bullish for us. But you can only suppress a spring for only so long. And when we see some level of that volatility move higher, that's when we should anticipate a readjustment in pricing this month, in my opinion. And as we get into next month, we'll see this volatility come back down to lows, and we'll see the market drift higher up into the end of the year. And these big institutions will make their bonuses and be able to add additions to their Hampton homes and what have you. So for us, if we follow what these guys are doing, we can make money by positioning. So right now, you got to be cautious. You got to position for risk management, have your risk management, review your risk management process. Where do you get out? Where do you get in? When do you trim down your positions? Where do you take profits? Have all that written down. That's part of your process, along with how do you reallocate? How do you put that money back to work? When do you put it back to work? Take out the headlines and the FOMO and look at the facts and look at the numbers and look at what is happening under the surface, because that eventually rises to the top and causes markets to move. So cautiously optimistic this week, but I would say that whole buy on the rumor, sell on the news kind of event could be in play at this point. If Powell comes out and says the wrong words, you know what could happen. So take that into account this week, and we'll go from there. Let's open it up to the floor for questions, charts, fun-filled stuff. One thing Robert Berry just asked in the thing, could we put option statistics on a few of the Mag 7? So yes, this weekend I was working on what the gamma levels for market makers was on NVIDIA in particular. It was negative, and I want to broaden that out. I'm going to make that part of my morning newsletter that I'm putting out, that you could see that, and it'll give you an idea of how the market makers are positioning their books to hedge out their books because they have to stay neutral at all times. But Nvidia right now is actually negative, so that pressure to the downside on Nvidia is more than it has been recently. So take that into account. But yes, I'm working on that, and I hope to have that in the newsletter. It should be I should be able to do it by end of the week, but that's a project I'm working on. So thank you
Cool.
for the question, though.
Awesome. A couple charts. AMR asked for JD.com. This is an ADR, so Chinese stock. Come right up, and here we are on resistance 4 days in a row. I mean, following the upper Bollinger Band, tried to pop up, got up here to where the sell orders were, came back down on Friday. Again, I don't like to trade on resistance or above the Bollinger Band, but it's really up to you. But resistance for sure. Move it over a little bit. You can see we've had it before at this level on resistance. So for me as a trade, wouldn't be anything that I want to be in as an investment. Just using Paul Tudor Jones, I'd wait, see if it could get above that 200 and then get in. But trade wise, I'm not interested in this one based on my trading plan. ELV, it's another one that he brought up. ELV, healthcare, I believe. Yeah, just been sideways. Okay, and you can see the 50 is just jetting down, and we finally got over the 50, but we're playing around the 9, and look how close these Bollingers are. So something has to give to make this thing pop, and once it does, this is a great one for your watch list under the 200 because we're right along support. Look at that intermediate support level. It's kind of like when we were watching United Health forever. It went along the support level and then finally started moving. We're waiting for that finally start to move before I would get into this one. It's not showing me that yet. So until we break out of this box and start moving up, I'm not really interested in trading this, but it's a good one for a watch list. OKLA. Oops, I got that wrong. OKLO, sorry. OKLO. Let me get this a little better chart. Okay, so move this over. So again, here we are. We moved up. We've hit resistance. We've done this before back, in August, and now here we are back up on it. So what's going to get it past that resistance level? What's going to make it roll? We've tried back here. Something's got to get it. You may wick up a little bit and it's these sell orders up here. From my point of view, I'm going to wait and see if that can break out. But you had a little bit over the 9 here again. But right now, I think you're at the point where you don't want to enter. I don't want to enter. Doesn't mean this can't go up or won't go up, but these lines are telling me something. They're on here for a reason, and I would just kind of wait and see if it could break through on this one. And MDB. Okay, Mongob Class A. We kind of looked at this one last week again. Came up, hit resistance, and that's where we're at between resistance and where the sell orders are again. And I'm starting to see a rollover here on the MACD. Let's go back, take a look at this one a little bit further back. Yeah, you can see we've done this before. We've come up back in November of last year, came up and played this same game, and here we are again. So it's going to have to come out, break through here, and probably get above this high right here where we were at 370-ish. We'll see if it can break out beyond that. But right now, it's hitting a pretty good level of resistance on MGB. Let me go back down. So thanks for those. FFMGF we have. I think this is a gold one. FFMGF. Okay, this is a small little penny stock. This is 19 cents. Okay, I don't deal in these. This is what day traders like to play in this game. But it's had a nice run up. I can't deny that. We come back and we look at volume. Volume is good. Okay, for this. So again, if you like trading in these penny stocks, you can see what you can get these big wicks up and down. But you're outside the Bollinger Band. You don't have any resistance level at the top. If I was looking at it purely from a trading point of view, you'd come in and you probably got in when it got above the 9 and the 50 here. And you had a crossover on the MACD and just follow that up. But right now, you know, you look at, how much more momentum is there? And I don't follow gold all that much, but you know, we've had some pretty good momentum. But on these, I mean, if you look, if you're playing a little more risk game on what you are on these penny stocks, you know, you can catch one of these wicks down and then have it pop back up and follow momentum like it's done the last 2 days. You know, you might be able to make some money on that, but again, I don't like trading outside the upper Bollinger Band, you know, unless I'm on the inside. But seeing these wicks here means to me there's a lot of indecision going on between ups and downs more and more. But again, a little bit more riskier, but with risk comes reward. Gold. Someone want to talk about gold miners. And we went over this last week, and here's your gold miner ETF. Okay, and it's come up and it's pretty much hit some resistance for 2 days. Doesn't mean it can't go up. You got some sellers right above it, but you know, this tells me it's slowing down right now. And then you look at the volume, see the volume coming down, down, down. So you might want to be careful just on that one. Some other ones in there, KGC. Again, right there looks just like, you know, it's right up on resistance. SSRM, right there on resistance. Ring, right there on resistance, and IAG, right there on resistance. Okay, so you know, for me, I'm like, God, you know, when you look at trading plans, this is where I would like to have gotten in and just ride this up, and then I would have gotten out when it popped on resistance. That's how I swing trade. I'd be out and I let it go. If I were going to do anything, I think I would look more towards silver. Okay. I mean, it doesn't have resistance. It could come on anytime. I thought it was going to come on here where it moved over, but it popped up. So if you want to get into metals and you have the stomach for the volatility of the possible, you know, resistance coming on, you know, and stopping you out, you know, silver may be where you want to head for me. And what else we got? I think that's what I had. Go back and take a look here.
Mark, I want to hit upon a couple of stocks that we've talked about last week. We can figure out how to do this. Okay, last week, week 4, I talked about Cipher mining, CIFR. I think it was right back here in the $8 range. I think I started talking about it. It's on actually Kerry's Bitcoin mining watch list on the tell sheet. But today it looks to open up at $11.02. This thing is making a move quite a bit higher here recently. It's above that Tudor Jones line. It's above the intermediate trend line. It's above the trade trend line. These green blocks represent bigger buying support. So as you can see back here around that $6.86 range, we saw support basically being put in. And then the last 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 days, it's rocketed higher and continues to go higher. But I want to point out one thing. This is the Bollinger Band on this. Let's see if I can blow this up a little bit more. It has been basically riding the upper Bollinger Band. Mark uses this, and I think it's a good something to refer to. It's riding this upper Bollinger Band, pulled back on Thursday. This is where I got out of my option on this. I was up quite a bit and very happy with the movement and was a bit concerned about it going lower. But today, Friday, it made a move higher. But here's the one thing I check out here. The volume on Thursday was on the sell side, but larger than Friday. So this move didn't have the volume that, say, Wednesday, September 9th, Tuesday, September 9th, Wednesday, September 10th had, versus Thursday, September 11th, and of course, Friday, September 12th. But if you're in this, you got looks like another 19-cent punch higher, which is great, but we're getting above that Bollinger Band, and that's something to take into account because I think 5% of the time, stocks actually trade above the Bollinger Band. So that's 95% of the time they come back within the Bollinger Band. So anticipate if you've been in this, you've made money. This has been a nice short-term trade, swing trade, or I don't know if it's a swing trade, but more of a trade. Be cautious here as we get higher. And remember, we have eventually, when we do see a resistance level, you'll see these blocks here go from green to red, and I'll show you resistance there. Hound, almost said Soundgarden for those who are 80s and 90s grunge fans. This is Soundhound. We pointed this out last week, within earlier in the week, prior week. It's up against this resistance level. As you can see, this band here has a lot of. This is where selling has occurred, and that back on Monday, September 8th, that became a resistance level. It pulled back, and then now it's trending downward. Today it's supposed to open at 1436, so there is possible support here, but you have to always ask the question: what will cause Soundhound to break through this selling resistance level of 1572? What event, what news, what could light this thing up? I don't know. I don't know the answer to that. Earnings is next with November 6th, so that's probably not it anytime soon. But what we could be seeing is an accumulation phase here. What I'd like to see is that this basic right around $14 would become, you see a green block enter here, and that would say there's some buyers there, support there. That could be an accumulation phase that could push us into fourth quarter. But remember, like I said earlier, September, rocky road, October, November, December, this is where bonuses are made. This is where Wall Street makes a lot of their money. And these guys, remember, it's, was it Gordon Gekko? Greed is good. Keep that in mind. That's how Wall Street works. So keep an eye on that. There was one energy company I pointed out here last week, because this company is building the energy source factory or production for Meta's $10 billion data center development in Louisiana. That's off I-20. This development that Entergy Corporation, ETR, is this facility they're building is totally 100% dedicated to that data center. And Louisiana is in favor, from what I can see, in favor of these data centers because one, they have energy, two, they have water. And to keep these places cool, you have to have water and you have to have an enormous amount of energy. We've talked about this a couple of times over the last couple of months. Is energy is going to be the biggest restrictive piece of this data center development and AI development. So this is a company, boring energy company out of Louisiana, who now has stepped in and say, hey, we'll cater to you, data center developers, and we'll build a facility just for you. And this could be energy's breakout and go from a boring industry to an exciting industry. So keep an eye on this. I think when I was talking about it, it was back in here. It was actually last week because I got a conversation with my brother-in-law who's in the energy business, and he pointed this out to me. So it was back down around this support area where we saw a lot of buyers or the intermediate trend line. So that was one other I wanted to point out. So that, yeah, that's what I got. So those are just keep an eye on the risk side of Cypher, CIFR, and keep an eye out for the opportunity in ETR.
Perfect. Thanks for that, Trent.
Yeah.
A couple more charts. We had requests for TTD, which is trade desk, and you can see what's happened to trade desk after earnings. It came right up to the 200, couldn't get past it, earnings dumped it. And that was back in April or August 8th. And we've just been right along basically what is now resistance. The 9 came down, we're following the 9, and then we dumped down to support, the intermediate support level. So here we are. You got to wait for the 9 to come back down. We were sitting at 45.15, and then you've got to get past this resistance a little bit. The Bollingers are moving aside. Again, you can see how it's squeezed between support and the lower Bollinger. So it's probably going to come back up a little bit, but your volumes definitely come down here a little bit. Your oscillators don't look too good, but this is on my what I call my flat list. So it's not one of my favorites on my flat list, but it's on the list. So I have others that look like MKTX that I watch that come down to that support level. You see we've come down, we've gone sideways. I wait for the 9 to come. And so here we've actually bounced up above it, but we're still within Bollingers. Now we have sell orders right above the Bollinger, but what I like is I have a little more room to the top if I can get past that, but we're not there yet. SNPS, this might be a Kerry stock. Synopsis had that drop down right to the support level. So now I got to wait, and see if the 9 will come down. This could go sideways for a while, but maybe get back up. These are my longer term watches. What you found there in TTD is on my longer term watch list, and we just haven't got there yet. VRTX is another example. Okay, looks just kind of like it. Here we had earnings drop down. This was in August, right along support. 9 came down. We still didn't get anything. Now look how close those Bollingers are. This is just another one you got to wait and watch to see if you ever get some momentum to pop this back up. You can go back and look. Okay, you see we've been up here at this resistance level before, and here we're right back down to where support is. And look at this pattern here: drop, boom, some zoom, but it kind of went sideways, So this has the ability to move back up. It's just not there yet. Okay, so these are the things I watch for, and I put them on, as they move through my system. I put them on the, the under 200 list, or, as we get higher and we see some momentum, that's when I put them on, and you start to see them run. But I got a lot of these that I just don't talk about because they're not really baked yet. Like here's Chipotle. Again, earnings dropped, came down, the 9 came up and dropped right down, and here's your support 3 days in a row. Gonna wait for the 9 to roll down. You can always tell you got your sell orders way below the intermediate resistance level. So you got some work to have this bounce down, but you need this 9 to come down and show that we're getting more get past that. We're getting more short-term momentum to the upside. But that's how I watch these. And so these may be ones you'll see next week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, just depend. But that's what we want. We want the hit and then swing back up. So I'd wait a little bit on TTD. And then someone had BMNR. This is, I believe this is the Treasury Reserve that Tom Lee's on that does Ethereum. I watched this one too. But again, we've come back, we've hit resistance, and that's about where we're going to hit up here again. So you got to think to yourself, okay, here's my potential reward up to resistance. Here's my risk back down to the 50, maybe the 20, maybe the 9. So again, as a swing trade, probably not where I wanted to be right today. I'd go with Semler Scientific or BTM or one of the others that we just looked at. But if you were on a more of an investment and you got in back at the Paul Tudor Jones level, when it popped above, if you got it in this area, if you got it here, you're underwater, obviously. But these you just got to let it settle out. Hasn't been there, in the highlights of the traders for a while. I mean, it popped up here when Tom Lee got involved back at the end of June, but we just needed to settle out and see where it goes. That's what I got. We're about at market open. Anything else?
Right.
Hopefully we got everything for everybody, and everyone has a nice Monday. And we have FOMCs coming out, so I'm not expecting, unless some news comes out, I'm kind of expecting just kind of sideways up and down, and there'll be some swings in there, but Wednesday's going to be either the fireworks or the dud.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. So pay attention. Who knows what could happen?
Yep, I
So,
don't.
all right, we'll wrap it up there. Thank you all for joining us. We really appreciate it, and we appreciate your support, your comments. I've written down Mr. Barry's ideas on adding gamma flip lines and a couple other things. So I'll try to integrate that into the tell sheet 12 along with add a sort of a piece to the newsletter as well. Don't want to get too overbearing, but I like some of these ideas, so I'll work on putting those to work this week. If you have any questions, concerns, or anything, you can always contact me via text through my phone number, which I should probably just pop up here. If you have questions about upgrading, you can do that as well. And I'll put this in the chat so you can contact me. And I decided this weekend I was going to be really good about checking email as well under support.com. So that's you guys are holding my feet to the fire on that. So I'm gonna continue to work hard on answering those emails and all that. So there you go. Have a great day. Have a great all day, and we'll see you all tomorrow. Take
Guys,
care.
thank you.
Thank
Thank you
you.
all.
Bye.
All right. Live loud.
Live loud.
Live
You're busy.
peace.